Hi, welcome to Dish by RMU Culinary, a weekly installment where we show you delicious food. My name is Chef Brad with the Institute of Culinary Arts at Robert Morris University in downtown Chicago. On this week's episode, we're showing you red snapper en papillote. En papillote is a very classic way to cook fish and any type of seafood for that matter, where we cook the seafood in a parchment paper envelope, and then we will bake it in the oven. So the first thing we need to do is cut our vegetables for our red snapper en papillote. We've got some really delicious aromatics to add to the fish as well. An aromatic is anything that gives off an aroma that adds to the flavor of the dish. So we've got sliced lemons, which are going to be really great with seafood. I've got some fresh rosemary. I've got leeks. We're also going to add in some sliced red bell pepper and some sliced zucchini. This is a leek. A lot of people see leeks in recipes a lot, but are not quite sure what they are. A leek is in the onion family. They usually have a taller green stalk to them. The part that you use the most is generally just the white and light green part. So I always tell our students here at Robert Morris that when the leek starts to blossom out, that's where you cut off. And this can be used for stock, or you can just discard it. So this is the edible portion of the leek. And the next step, because they grow in dirt, there's usually quite a bit of dirt and sand in between the layers of the leek. So cut it in half lengthwise, and then you always want to rinse it off with cold water just to get all of that sand and dirt out from in between the layers of the leek, because we don't want a gritty red snapper en papillote today. And once you rinse it off, then we're just going to slice it very thin. And this is going to act as the bed of our en papillote dish today. I've already sliced about a half of a zucchini into rounds, sliced relatively thin. This is going to cook in about 10 to 12 minutes in a 350-degree oven. And there's really no way of telling it's done until the parchment paper turns golden brown and inflates slightly like a balloon. And I'll show you what that looks like. We've got one red bell pepper that we're going to just slice into strips. And this is going to add some really great color to our dish today. Remember, we always eat with our eyes first. So we always want to make sure that we've got a balance of color, a variety of color in the dish, a variety of textures as well is also great as we start eating the dish. So when you make this dish, though, you can add any type of vegetables that you like. So you don't have to stick to the peppers and leeks and zucchini. You can add broccoli. You can even add rice to this if you wanted to add a starch. You can add yellow squash. You can even add some tomatoes. So to make our envelope for our en papillote is French for in paper. We take a piece of parchment paper. If you don't have parchment paper, you can use foil or wax paper. Both will work. You just might have to, when you check for the doneness of the fish, if you use foil, you just have to check a little bit differently than if you use the paper. So we fold a piece of parchment paper in half, and we're going to take some kitchen shears, and we want to leave our the seam intact. And so we're going to we want the bottom of our envelope to be thinner than the top. So we're going to cut out an envelope, and we're going to go back to kindergarten days, and we're going to make basically a heart out of parchment paper. Okay? So on one side of the parchment, we're going to add our vegetables. We've got our bed of leeks. We're going to add in a few zucchini. Remember, we want this to look just as good as it tastes. And we're going to add some red bell pepper. And because we want to flavor every step of the dish, we're just going to season our vegetables with just a little salt and a little pepper. And then I've got 2 red snapper fillets. We're just going to do 1 in each envelope. We're going to lay 1 piece right down on top of our zucchini. We're going to season this with a little salt as well and a little pepper. And then we're going to top it with some of our aromatics now. We've got 2 lemon slices. I've got rosemary. You can use any type of herb for this. Rosemary's great, basil's really good, thyme is also really nice. And I just need about a 2 or 3 inch piece of rosemary, and we're gonna lay that right on top as well. And then I've got 1 tablespoon of butter, and this is gonna add to the moisture of the dish. You can also add just a little drizzle of white wine to this as well. You can even, if you've got a flavored butter at home, a garlic butter would be great in this dish. So now we need to seal our envelope up. And this is the most important step because this dish is going to steam, the fish is going to steam in this bag. So we want to make sure that it is completely sealed up so that way the steam doesn't escape. And so we're going to fold over our unpapillote, and we're going to start at the fat side of the paper. And we're just going to do a series of folds. And we want to fold each of the next folds over the previous. So as you can see, as I'm coming around here, we're just continuing to fold around the fish. We don't want to make it too tight next to the fish because we want some space for the steam to develop in there. But you want to make sure your creases are really close together and are relatively tight so that it doesn't come undone. As you get to the tip of the unpapillote, then we're just going to roll that up as tight as possible to seal it in. And this is going to just get put onto a baking sheet. And we're going to bake this at 350 degrees until the bag is golden brown, it's inflated slightly, and that's how you know the fish is done. This is something that you can actually prepare in advance, a day in advance or even the morning of if you're having a dinner party. And then you just pop them in the oven about 10 or 15 minutes before you're ready to eat. The only way you know they're done, and it's just kind of like a magic trick, is when that parchment paper turns slightly golden brown and has inflated slightly. Then you pull it out, and then we'll show you how to serve it from there. So we'll pop this in the oven and for about 10 to 15 minutes. We can check our red snapper unpapillote. And remember, we're looking for the parchment paper to be golden brown and slightly inflated. So as it comes out, we see that the paper, if you look closely, around the edges is golden brown, and then across the top is as well. And it's just inflated just a little bit. It's not going to blow up like a balloon, but it is going to inflate just a little bit more than what it was before. So we'll transfer this to our serving plates. And this is something that you want to serve right away, because the big part of this dish is the big reveal. So we don't really need a garnish for this dish because we have the lemon and the beautiful rosemary on top of the fish. So when we open it, that's going to be our garnish for the dish. But generally when this is served, the host or hostess will come with a pair of scissors and just make one snip in the center and tear open that parchment paper. That steam billows out of there. You get those smells of the lemon and the rosemary with the leeks, and you see that beautiful red snapper right in the center of the plate. And like I said, you can serve, put a bed of rice in there if you want to add a starch to it, and just do the rice underneath the leeks. You don't have to use red snapper either. You can use any type of seafood that you would like. For recipes and more information on Robert Morris University and our culinary arts program, please visit robertmorris.edu. Thank you, and we'll see you next week.